It's human nature to be fascinated by the unusual. In the 19th century, circuses leaned into that curiosity by adding sensational shows to their main performances. These shows often featured people with rare physical conditions, historical anomalies, or wax replicas. Many were part of what became known as dime museums, where guests paid to witness what were often called freak shows. While this term, in today's context, feels pretty bad, it was once used to describe unique people. So join us as we're going to look at the 15 circus freaks you won't believe existed. Number 15, Clementine Delay. Clementine Delay remains France's most iconic bearded lady. Born and raised in Lorraine, near the German-Swiss border, Delay was noticeably hairy from adolescence, though she initially tried to hide it. In 1885, at age 20, she married a local baker, and the two opened a cafe. When a carnival visited town in 1900, Clementine saw the featured bearded lady and confidently declared she could grow a better one. And she did. The couple turned her fame into business, renaming their shop Le Café de la Femme à Barbe, the Cafe of the Bearded Woman. They sold postcards featuring Clementine behind the counter. As her image spread, she began touring, performing in museums, cabarets, and circuses across Europe. She famously declined an American tour. In 1934, she published her memoirs. Through confidence and marketing, Clementine turned a supposed flaw into a brand, making her not just a sideshow celebrity, but a face of self-expression. While not as known as Ann Jones, Clementine was entirely unique. Number 14, Admiral Dot. Let's rewind to 1868. Barnum's museum had just burned down for the final time. Everyone thought he'd retired. Not a chance. While sightseeing in San Francisco, Barnum heard about Leopold S. Kahn, a little person he claimed was even smaller than Tom Thumb. Barnum quickly snatched him up, christened him Admiral Dot, and proudly displayed him in his hotel lobby for weeks. Not long after, Dot joined Barnum's next circus project, P.T. Barnum's Grand Traveling Museum, Menagerie, Caravan, and Circus. Dot also worked for the American Lilliputian Company and later signed on with Barnum's rival, Adam Forepaugh. In 1892, he married Lottie Swartwood, another little person, and settled in White Plains, New York, where he opened the Admiral Dot Hotel, fondly nicknamed Hotel Pee-wee. Tragically, both he and his daughter were taken by the 1918 influenza pandemic. Despite his small stature, Admiral Dot left a huge legacy in circus history, standing alongside the most celebrated legends of the sideshow world. Number 13, the Seal Boy. Stanislaus Barrent was born in Pittsburgh in 1901. Stanley's shortened arms, caused by a condition called phocomelia, were the result of a genetic mutation, not, as is often assumed, due to chemical exposure. Phocomelia later became famously associated with thalidomide, a drug that caused extreme deformities in more than 10,000 children during the 1950s and 60s. According to most accounts, Stanley was first noticed selling newspapers before earning recognition in nearly every prominent American sideshow and dime museum. Performing under the name Sealo, referencing seal arms, the literal meaning of phocomelia, his act involved executing daily tasks using specialized tools and pure creativity. His charisma made him unforgettable. While traveling with Ward Hall, Sealo developed a close bond with a chimpanzee that would aggressively protect him from hecklers. For comfort or orthopedic reasons, Sealo often lodged in hotels instead of circus trailers, a decision no one contested due to his stature. In 1972, he helped overturn a Florida law against handicapped performers. He retired in 1976 and died in 1980. Number 12, Johnny Meah. If sideshow banners had voices, they'd probably all sound like Meah. Born in 1937 in Bristol, Connecticut, Meah grew up surrounded by black and white newspaper comics. His father was a cartoonist, but color called louder. At 14, he visited his first carnival and met Hugo Zacchini, the human cannonball. Zacchini also painted banners. That lit the spark. Meah began as a clown, then learned sword swallowing and fire eating. After a brief stint at RISD, he returned to the Midway. In 1956, he toured with the Ross Manning Show under Leola, aka Homer Tracy, a performer dubbed half man, half woman. Leola hired him to repaint worn-out banners, and that was that. Meah became a legend. Influenced by banner painters like Snap Wyatt and Fred Johnson, he combined the bizarre with the whimsical. By the 80s, galleries called it folk art. He wasn't sold on the label, but rolled with it. Today, his work hangs in the Smithsonian and Barnum Museum. Meah still paints, writes, and keeps carnival lore alive, one banner at a time. Number 11. Charles Tripp. Back then, Charles Tripp wasn't just the most well-known armless performer alive. He was one of Canada's most prominent entertainers. Born on July 6, 1855, in Woodstock, Tripp owed much of his fame to his legendary stage partner and close friend, Eli Bowen. Tripp was born without arms, but from an early age he became remarkably proficient at using his legs and feet as if they were hands. Though never exhibited as a child, he became locally admired for accomplishing daily tasks in astonishing ways. At 17, restless and dreaming big, Tripp heard about a showman in New York who featured individuals with rare abilities. He packed his bag and went, armed with just a name, P.T. Barnum. When he arrived, he walked barefoot into Barnum's office and began his routine, brushing his hair, folding clothes, and putting on socks. Barnum hired him on the spot. Over 5 decades, Tripp's act evolved to display penmanship and carpentry. His iconic tandem bike photo with Eli remains timeless. Tripp died in 1930, aged 74. Number 10. The Man with Two Faces. Sam Alexander wasn't born with any facial disfigurement. In his 20s, while pursuing a path in theater, a tragic accident altered his life permanently. Though versions differ, most agree he struck a match near gasoline and suffered devastating burns to the lower half of his face. Despite undergoing multiple surgeries, doctors couldn't fully repair the damage, estimating that complete reconstruction would require up to 15 years. Alexander withdrew from the public eye, overwhelmed by the emotional burden of his appearance. Eventually, a young surgeon created a lifelike facial prosthetic, enabling him to rejoin society. Sam transformed his hardship into a theatrical performance, joining renowned circus companies including Ringling Bros, Barnum and Bailey, and the Clyde Beatty Circus. His act involved recounting his story, then removing the mask as a climax. He later started his own sideshow troupe. After more surgeries, he retired, still wearing the mask. He died of natural causes in 1997 and was deeply loved by friends. Number 9. Captain George Augur. Well, now here's a man who lived on a grand scale. Captain George Augur, born William Henry Augur in Cardiff in 1881, became a towering sideshow sensation, famously known as the Cardiff Giant. He stood 7 feet and 4 inches by the time he was 18. At 12, he lied about his age to enlist in the Royal Marines, but didn't last long. Later, he worked as a theater doorman, married dancer Elizabeth Hearn, and began acting. In 1904, the couple traveled to New York, and Augur joined Barnum and Bailey. He became a U.S. citizen, penned a play titled Jack the Giant Killer, and toured relentlessly. In 1922, just before filming Why Worry? With Harold Lloyd, he died unexpectedly after Thanksgiving dinner. His body was so large it had to be lowered out of a second-story window. His bulldog Ringling howled the whole time. Though buried in an unmarked grave, Augur left a tale taller than most. Whether knighted by Queen Victoria or not, one thing's certain: the man owned every inch of his height and his story. Number 8. Ching Ling Fu and Chung Ling Soo. William Ellsworth Robinson, known as Chung Ling Soo, became a famous magician, but before him came the original, Ching Ling Fu. Ironically, during an era when Chinese immigrants were deported or exploited for cheap labor, being a Chinese magician became a coveted persona for non-Chinese performers. The real Ching Ling Fu, born Chi Ling Kwa, astonished audiences at Omaha's 1898 Trans-Mississippi exhibition. His illusions included producing enormous vats of liquid, water, milk, and ducks in barrels from beneath cloths. He also exhaled smoke that turned into streamers or a 9-foot pole and introduced the Torn and Restored Paper Act. Soon, imitators swarmed vaudeville with fake names like Tung Pin Su, Rush Ling Toy, and more. But the boldest copycat was Robinson, who became Chung Ling Soo and ultimately outshone Ching. Su never broke character, using fake Chinese and giving interviews via interpreter. When Ching challenged him, Su duplicated his acts flawlessly. In 1918, during a bullet catch stunt in London, Su's stage gun misfired, killing him instantly. Number 7. Angelo Rosito. We're not joking. Angelo Rosito had one of the longest, most bizarre, and most remarkable acting careers of any sideshow star. At just 2 feet and 11 inches tall, he managed to land over 70 film roles between 1927 and 1987. Unlike other actors from Freaks, Rosito never relied on the circus to find an audience. He did it all: monsters, sidekicks, aliens, elves, Roman soldiers, sometimes buried in prosthetics, sometimes just as himself. He used names like Little Mo, Angelino, or Stuck with Angelo. Born in Omaha, he earned a steady living from his Los Angeles newsstand, supplementing it with acting gigs. His first film, The Beloved Rogue, 1927, with John Barrymore. He starred in cult classics like Spooks Run Wild, The Corpse Vanishes, Dracula vs. Frankenstein, and Mad Max, Beyond Thunderdome, as Master. He even played a little pig in Babes in Toyland. Rosito also popped up in H.R. Pufnstuf, Lidsville, and more. Number 6. Alfredo Codona. He wasn't bizarre, he was brilliant. Alfredo Codona is celebrated as one of the greatest trapeze artists ever to soar under a circus canopy. Even renowned aerialist Art Concello admired his prowess. Codona was the first to execute the triple somersault. Born October 7, 1893 in Sonora, Mexico, Alfredo came from a lineage of Italian circus performers. His father, a trapeze artist and showrunner in southern Mexico, and his mother, Hortense Buisley, also a flyer, raised him in performance culture. The family, Alfredo, his parents, brother Abelardo, and sister Victoria, became renowned as the Flying Codonas. In 1917, Alfredo married fellow trapeze artist Clara Curtin. They divorced in 1927. A year later, he married Ringling Brothers aerial star Lillian Leitzel. Their love was fiery but turbulent. In 1931, while in Berlin, Alfredo learned Lillian had fallen during a show in Copenhagen. She died 2 days later. After marrying Vera Bruce, Alfredo's career-ending injury and failing marriage led him to fatally shoot Vera and himself in 1937. Number 5. Anna Swan. By the age of 4, Anna already towered above most adults, measuring a remarkable 4.5 feet, and she kept growing. By 10, she was 6 feet 1, and as a grown woman, she reached a staggering 7 feet 5 inches. At 17, she joined P.T. Barnum's Museum in New York City. In 1865, tragedy struck. The museum burned down. Anna, weighing about 159 kilograms, couldn't escape through the window due to the obstructed stairways. She was rescued just in time. Afterward, she resumed touring across the American West and then Europe, even performing before Queen Victoria. Her life shifted dramatically when she married fellow giant Martin Van Buren Bates, a man nearly her height. The pair amazed crowds not only with their size, but also with their elegance. Anna's life was far from ordinary, but it wasn't only her height that made her stand out. It was her resilience and dignity that left the strongest, most lasting impression. Number 4. Conjoined Colo brothers. If you had to share a body, you'd hope for someone tolerable to be stuck with. For Lazarus and Joanne's, conjoined twins born in the 1600s, there was no such luxury. Joined at the chest and sharing vital organs, their anatomy fascinated scholars and unsettled the public. Born in the early 17th century, they entered a world where medicine still wrestled with myth and mysticism. Their presence straddled the line between divine anomaly and natural horror. The Colorado brothers traveled widely across Europe, showcased as living specimens and examined by curious physicians. Their condition remains rare even now, but at the time, it was nearly incomprehensible. Beyond oddities, they were siblings navigating a world that didn't know what to make of them. People stared, academics speculated, and yet they persevered, earning a living, gaining recognition, and achieving a strange fame. Their story goes beyond anatomy. It is history. Number 3. Len and Ernie Defort. Ernie Defort was born with a parasitic twin fused to his chest, a condition so rare it made him both a medical anomaly and a sideshow attraction. The twin lacked a head, but had 2 arms, 2 legs, another liver, and functioning kidneys. Marketed as 2 boys with 1 head, the attached body was referred to as Len, or sometimes Lester. His brief performance career mainly took place in Canada, where his condition intrigued crowds. By 1942, the added weight began straining Ernie's health, prompting doctors to recommend surgical removal. At age 12, Ernie underwent the risky operation. He survived, but fell into a deep sadness. He had grown emotionally attached to the twin. Over time, Ernie recovered, redefined his identity, and lived a well-adjusted life without Len. Still, the memory remained quietly with him. Life is just unfair. Number 2. Martin Laurel. This one's a head-turner, literally. Martin, known as the Owl Man, possessed a talent both mesmerizing and eerie. He could rotate his head a full 180 degrees, staring straight behind without moving his shoulders. This wasn't trickery or illusion. Years of dedicated conditioning, paired with an unusual spinal condition, allowed him to dislocate vertebrae without lasting damage. Unlike typical contortionists, who performed a variety of stunts, Laurel focused entirely on this one spine-twisting feat. He became a staple of sideshows and theatrical circuits, leaving audiences rattled by the grotesque display. Both physicians and spectators struggled to understand how his body could endure such unnatural motion without suffering permanent injury. Though Martin never achieved the stardom of elite circus legends, he secured his place as one of the most peculiar and unforgettable acts of his time. All right, now, let's end this with Number 1. Captain Costentenus. Costentenus is often remembered as America's first tattooed attraction, but that title actually goes to James F. O'Connell, who debuted at Barnum's American Museum in 1842 and published a dramatic memoir. While not the first, Costentenus was the most extensively tattooed man of the 19th century, possibly in the world. His entire body was covered, including his scalp, face, finger webs, and genitals, with only the soles of his feet untouched. His designs were Burmese, done in red and blue, depicting native animals and Eastern folklore. Said to be born in Albania in 1836, he falsely claimed he'd been abducted and forcibly tattooed, an exoticized tale typical of the era. Despite the lie, the artwork was genuine. His tattoos were so detailed that the University of Vienna studied him. He worked for P.T. Barnum and the Great Farini, earning $1,000 a week and selling fake autobiographies. Upon his death, he was wealthy and good. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching. We'll see you soon.